I suppose one definition of having lived a successful life is getting to the point where you can do what you used to have to do because now you want to do it, either because of old time's sake or because the end result is better. Now, for instance, there was a time when country folk especially had to raise a garden in order to live. Marcus Anderson, who's sort of the historian of Noxubee County, remembers those days.
What we ate was what was in the garden that particular day. We'd go out in the garden and pick whatever was there and go to pea patch and pick peas. Or go out and get sweet potatoes. You take a big kitchen fork and go out and dig sweet potatoes just for that meal that day.
It's not that way for too many people anymore. But drive through the country, and in many subdivisions, and you'll see home gardens. Not because people have to grow their own food anymore. They just like to, for the challenge of being able to, or they like the taste better, or as a throwback to how they, or maybe their parents, were raised, and the tradition that was handed down to them. Well, Gene Moore of Shuqualak says he remembers when farms were self-sufficient, except for things like salt and sugar and coffee and flour, but he figured those days ended with his generation.
I was raised like that. My children don't know anything about that, and I don't know anybody else that knows anything about truly living off the farm.
But Gene says he knows a lady in Noxubee County who comes close as he's heard of living self-sufficiently nowadays. Mrs. Christine Clark. At nearly age 90, she still makes her own butter. Her son Joe milks the cow. Matter of fact, the cow was his idea after having grown up with the cow on the farm and then trying to buy milk for years afterward.
Well, I bought one buttermilk, and it was too thick in there. I said, well, all this stuff they add into it, it would barely come out of the carton. So I said, I'm going to buy a cow. And that was our idea, buying one cow. And we were going to raise us a beef or two a year. But then it just kind of mushroomed, I guess, or it kind of grew. And I started raising these calves and gotten so attached to them, I can't sell them, So I don't know what to do with them now. But anyway, I just love them. I think we have about 30-some.
Oh, my goodness.
30-some cows.
That's a lot of pets.
In addition to Joe's cows, there's chickens and guineas and a few geese. The geese were Joe's idea, too. He got them because he heard they'd eat nut grass.
They eat a little bit of it, but I don't know. They're not controlling it.
Well, the geese are pets now, too. But all these attempts at independent living go back to Mama, Christine Clark. Ms. Clark was raised in a time when country people had to pretty much produce everything they lived on.
We had to work or starve. It's about that way. So that's all we know. And I told him I thought we'd had supposed to work. I thought that's a lie. We didn't never have time to frolic and do like a lot of other children.
And even today, although country living is just about like living in town without the traffic, still, Ms. Clark is early to bed, early to rise, and puts in a full day churning and working in the garden.
Well, that's all I've ever known. I ain't never seen where I want to change. I like it like that, and I'm thankful to God that He's blessed us to have normal health and normal food to eat. Things we can have things better than we used to. But yet still, I hadn't got no reason to want to go back, by no means. But I don't regret my past. We learned a lot. We know how to do it the hard way.
Maybe that's one thing that impresses Gene Moore about Miss Clark. You don't have to live that way anymore, but she and he knows how to if they had to again, but they really don't want to.
But I could. If I had to, I could. And I'd probably enjoy it, but I'd have all my family, my children back there too, because they wouldn't have a clue how to do it. But I could show them.
In some folks' mind, there's this gnawing that society's on the verge of disruption. And of course, there are survivalists who have already stockpiled communes in Montana and Alaska and are living as if it already had. Now, that's not why Ms. Clark chooses to supply almost everything she needs on her place. She just likes it. The Clarks like the mulberry trees out back, and the blueberry bushes, and even kiwi vines, along with the muscadines, tomatoes and onions and garlic. It all tastes good when you pick it and eat it fresh. But there's also that peace of mind knowing that if the economy fell to pieces all of a sudden, you could survive it. Something we more modern city folk might have a struggle with.
If hard times struck them, they'd starve to death.
But better that the hard times don't come, and all of this is just a way of life that has passed from the have-tos to the want-tos.
It's just another world. We living in another. I'm not living in the same world I was raised in.
And I guess that's the goal of living, to see things improve with every generation so the kids will have it better than we did. But in some folks' opinion, you still can't improve on the old ways. They just make a complicated world simple enough to cope with.
You know, I'm thankful the Lord has spared us. And we ain't had everything we wanted in life, but why complain? The Lord's been good to us. We could have been worse.